Welcome to the Brothers of the Sword Productions translation of the Seal of Zion, also known as the Seal of the Abbey of Dormition, or Abbey of the Holy Lady of Mount Zion. The seal purportedly dates to circa 1289 AD. Once again, the reverence for the sacred female is taking center stage from the legacy of Mother Mary worship. Seal translations tell a story through scribal abbreviations, space-saving abbreviations, and hidden messages. This seal has an eye-opening image of a dove descending from the sky around radiating rays of light that are shining onto 5 very alien-looking beings. Zion comes from the Hebrew word Zion, S-I-Y-O-N, and today is spelled T-S-I-Y-Y-O-N, but also has a number of spellings and pronunciations. Initially, Mount Zion was a specific hill in Jerusalem located to the southwest of Mount Moriah, now known as the Temple Mount. Later, Zion referred to the city of Jerusalem, the biblical land of Israel, and the Jewish nation as a whole. However, today it more specifically denotes Jerusalem's western wall, heaven on earth of the final gathering place of the true believers. The first letter of the word has been modified from a Z to an S, for it's believed the 1611 version of the King James Bible had mistakenly translated the word Zion with a Z to Zion with an S. The Old English word used the S for the spelling of Zion instead of the Z. The word Zion has many interpretations, but biblically means dry or parched place, fortification, or being raised up. In the Hebrew Bible, Mount Zion refers to the hill of Jerusalem near where the city of David was built. It is said that King David, second king of the Israelites, captured not only Zion, but the hearts of the nation of Israel and also the heart and throne of God. The story goes that the original hill of Zion was a Canaanite stronghold of the Jebusite tribe that was captured by King David and became the seat of the Israelis' kingdom. Sigillum in Latin means seal or sign, and on the top right of the seal is the abbreviation sigil, S-I-G-I-L-L. King David's son Solomon, who succeeded his father as king, was associated with magic and sorcery in the ancient world, and his signet ring was revered as magical, with the power to bind demons and spirits. Ancient lore says that the seal of Solomon, or Sigillum Solomonus, had been given to him by Archangel Michael because demons were purportedly hampering the construction of his temple. In fact, Solomon was a magician, and many talismans and seals have been found invoking his name to overcome evil. It dawned on me that most religions are about invoking powers to overcome evil, or what we consider evil in our self-made truths. In the end, this tempted Solomon to worship false gods, such as the Canaanite gods of Mot, Moloch, and Baal, which we discussed in the Shugburl inscription decoding of the Shepherd's Monument video. With the decoded message of Duo to Tanit and Mot, the Canaanite goddess of fertility, and their god of the underworld. Tanit is spelled with an E at the end to indicate this is a Canaanite goddess. Solomon was more than familiar with Canaanite gods because the Phoenician king Hiram of Tyre supplied architects, workmen, and cedar timbers for his temple. Over 143 years passed between the start of the construction of Solomon's temple and the founding of Carthage, or until Dato's flight that led to its founding. Dato was the daughter of the king of Tyre at the time, and the most famous version of Dato's flight states that Dato's brother cheated her out of her royal inheritance and killed her husband. Dato's escape took her to Cyprus, where she picked up a priest who worshipped the goddess Astarte. Astarte was a precursor moon goddess that morphed into the Canaanite goddess Tanit. Carthage was very influential in spreading pagan worship throughout the Mediterranean Sea and beyond. Due to their seafaring nature, Canaanite beliefs proliferated like wildfire throughout their known world. The word sigillum can have the inference of magic connected to the meaning of signs, as in omens, auguries, and portents. Solomon's 6-pointed star symbol became the Star of David, the icon of Judaism. This symbol is also connected to a magic shield that had been owned by King David, protecting him from his enemies, which sounds very similar to Perseus' shield given to him by Athena that assisted in the killing of Medusa. I touched on this in my Oak Island Prophesy series videos. During Solomon's reign, military strength of cavalry and chariot arms were greatly expanded, and it's said that Solomon had 40,000 horse stalls and 12,000 horsemen. This connects to the idea of chevaliers that we've also seen on a number of occasions in my videos, and we'll see again in the Seal of Zion translation. Chevaliers became the brave knights of the chivalrous men of yesteryear, but also means a member of a certain order of honor and merit. This seal is purportedly from the Abbey of Dormition, or Dormition of Mary, known today as the Abbey of Holy Mary of Zion, or Abbey of Our Lady of Mount Zion. This is not to be confused with the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axum, Ethiopia, where the Ark of the Covenant is claimed to reside. Dormition in this case means the death and assumption of Virgin Mary into heaven, and the word dormition itself denotes falling asleep, the process of death, or the actual state of death. In the 12th century, the monastic order of the Abbey of Dormition was established, and the church built over the ruins of a Byzantine church that had been built by Constantine. Reportedly, the church was destroyed in the 13th century, and the monks moved to Sicily. The Priory of Zion was a 20th century conjured-up commercial hoax about an intriguing secret order that had captured the attention of the modern world. The Abbey of Dormition's order was dedicated to the Blessed Mother's mystery of her Assumption and salvation. Assumption means to accept that something is true without proof. The Archangel Gabriel recognized Mary as full of grace and one with the Lord, from the power of the Holy Spirit which played a role in the redemption of man, and the Lord's promise of sharing eternal life and resurrection. However, the final disposition of her body and burial is yet unknown, and thus the word assumption is key to the adoption of the Virgin ascension and reception into heaven. In fact, the word assumption stems from the Latin verb assumere, to assume, because of the mysteries that surround her death. Once again, the sacred female worship arises from the ashes of male domination as a reoccurring theme throughout many of my videos. It appears the smothering of the ancient earth goddess worship is struggling to surface. It only makes sense that the ancients revered Mother Earth and the mothers who bore them. That would certainly warrant a mother goddess. The idealism of a virgin with any other woman being considered a harlot would be a hard concept for the ancients to grasp, although virginity confirms the passing of royal bloodlines. The unusual depiction on the seal of a dove descending with light rays onto alien-looking beings definitely catches one's attention. The dove is an iconic symbol of a number of mother goddesses, to include the Virgin Mary. In Mesopotamia, doves were prominent symbols of Sumer's Eanna and Ishtar, as well as Astarte, Canaanites Asherah, whom was reportedly a consort of Yahweh, and the Phoenician and later Punic goddess Tanit. All were the queens of heaven, stars, and the moon, and the goddesses of love, sexuality, and fertility. In classical antiquity, doves were sacred to the Greek goddess Aphrodite, who absorbed this association with doves from Eanna and Ishtar. A dove with an olive branch symbolized signs of life after the biblical flood. On the seal, 11 rays of light descend with the dove, for 12, symbolizing the illumination of the Holy Spirit, casting divine light on 5 beings who appear to be quite alien. If these beings represent the apostles, as believed, why isn't there 12 beings on the seal? The number 5 is the number of creation of man, representing our 5 senses, our 5 fingers and toes, and as well the 5 elements of earth, with light playing a founding role in creation. Let's draw our attention to the message on the seal. The seal's thumbnail translation is, "Seal of the respected kinship of the living blood of chevaliers." The first letters in the seal is sigil, which is the abbreviation for sigillum, meaning seal. The next letters are SPC, the Latin root for spec or spect, and its variant spic is for the verb spectere, to see, and was the basis for the word spectacles. However, English modified the root spec or spect into many words such as respect, aspect, spectator, spectrum, suspect, inspect, and spic into words such as auspicious, conspicuous, or suspicious. I'm electing respect, or perhaps auspicious, for the SPC abbreviation. The next letters are SAI and represent the Latin words sanguineus, meaning life, vital energy, and kinship, and is sanguine in English, meaning blood, resembling the color of blood, and in modern English also means an optimistic attitude when facing a difficult situation. The next letter is D for day, meaning of or from in Latin. The letters after that are E-M-O-I-L-E-S. English speakers would recognize this more easily if we put an H in front of it. The H is silent in many instances, and we saw the H missing in the old spelling of Jerusalem on seals that I translated on a prior video. Now let's break this word up so we can understand it. Hemo, H-E-M-O, is the prefix for blood, and I-L-E is the Latin suffix for an adjective denoting a characteristic of something, for example, volatile or juvenile. Note in this case the characteristic of blood is in the plural form. The Latin prefix for blood is H-A-E-M-O, hemo, and in Greek it's haema, and sometimes it's spelled with a H in front of it. These were then modified to hema and hemo in English. In fact, English has over 1,300 words that start with the prefix hemo. Here's an interesting thought concerning the Greek word haima. Alpha and Omega were introduced from the Greek alphabet in the book of Revelations to signify Jesus as the first and the last. Alpha means first or beginning, and Omega actually means great. What if the Greek word haima represented Alpha? Then Alpha and Omega would be an abbreviation for great blood. The word for blood could also mean bloodshed, unto blood, sacrificial blood, covenant blood, and blood of Christ, as well as tribal, national, and family bonds. Ancient Greek savants, or at least some of them, considered blood to be the same as the soul, the psyche, in the sense of non-material source of life, called the spirit. However, I'm reading into this that the word sanguine refers to kinship or blood relations, while hemoles refers to bloodline and blood itself. From my experience, if a seal holds any secrets, you'll most likely find them at the end of the seal's message, and this seal is no exception. In fact, the last two symbols on this seal seem to have a number of possible translations. I'll throw out a few that seem most likely and give you some background to support some educated decisions. The next letter on this seal looks like an italic V or Y with a line over it to indicate it's an abbreviation. An italicized letter can also mean emphasis. The Semitic letter V, Vav, from the Hebrew alphabet means hook, and Y, Wav, from the Phoenician alphabet means forked hook. And surprisingly, these letters warp into the modern letters F, W, U, and even K and J. As we have seen in many other videos, Vav in Hebrew symbolizes the binding of heaven and earth, as above, so below. So we can possibly add that to the final seal translation, seal of the respected kinship, binding heaven and earth, of the living blood of the Chevaliers. On the other hand, the italicized symbol could also imply both a Y and a W for Yahweh, the Hebrew spelling for God. The next symbol looks like an O and an I connected with a thin line. This symbol has been seen many times before in my seal translations. This letter is from the Maceduli Georgian script alphabet for the letter T and is called Tani. You might not think that this fits into the scheme of things, but the word Maceduli literally means cavalry or military and comes from the word Macedari, that means horseman, knight, warrior, or cavalier. The Georgian script Tani has no discernible meaning that I could see at first glance other than the letter T and the number 9. The last two symbols of the seal can be translated into the letters V and T. For the Latin word vita, meaning life or vital force, or vitus, meaning life giver. So combine that with the previous word blood, and it could mean something like living blood, seal of the respected kinship of the living blood of Chevaliers. I found this in a roundabout way. An alternative version of Yahweh is said Elohim Ayim, meaning living God, as Ayim means life. And then I realized in Latin the word for life is vita, which fit the bill for the V and T abbreviation. On the other hand, the word viro in Latin means human, man, or hero, and that could fit into the scheme of things too. Perhaps a bit of history is in order. If you want a full review, you'll have to watch my Sword Brothers history, seal translation, and Templar Oak Island connection video. After the First Crusade began circa 1096, King David gradually liberated most of eastern Georgia. Georgia is one of the oldest converted Christian nations in the world. The word Templar in Georgian is Taza Libri, meaning people of the temple, and these first temple people dated before the Crusades. Legends say that Mary, the mother of Christ, dispatched the apostle Andrew to preach the gospel in Georgia and to find the mantle of the prophet Elijah. The apostles Matthew and Simon of Canaan preached in Georgia, and surprisingly both are buried on the Georgian Black Sea coast. And the apostles Bartholomew and Thaddeus preached in eastern Georgia. At the time of the Livonian Brothers of the Sword existence, the Tanni letter in Latin represented the letter M, as seen on the word sigillum on the top right quadrant of this Livonian Riga city seal, and has been translated into Mary in some of my seal translations. Note that the S on sigillum is backwards, making it a Z. Z is the letter Zayon in the Semitic languages and means sword, and it appears to be a subtle way of saying the Brothers of the Sword were running the show. The word chevalier was found on a couple of my seal translations. The Latin noun and adjective for chevalier is tiro and tauronus, and also means young soldier or recruit. Chevalier is an archaic Latin word for knight who is a member of a certain order. The TIR abbreviation for tiro was found on the Brothers of the Sword seal with two Tanni letters following the TIR abbreviation. This Livonian order seal used TOI for tauronus and was found on the bottom left of the seal. If you note, the O connected to the I on this Livonian order seal is the same symbol seen on the seal of Zion, and is similar to the Macadruli letter Tani. If I hadn't noticed the spelling between these two seals, I might have missed the message. This leads me to another observation on the Knights Teutonic seal. In front of the Macadruli Tani symbol is actually the letters TAN, physically connected to a Templar Cross, which I'm reading as the name of the Canaanite goddess Tanit, using the cross as an I and a T. So my thoughts are, why have a secret Chevalier order if you can't have secrets that are hiding right in front of everyone's eyes? In fact, a lead cross depicting Tanit was found on Oak Island, which I find quite intriguing. Patterns are starting to emerge as I put these videos together with the theme of an earth goddess worship, with connections to the solstices, equinoxes, and the stars in heavens. Could this secret order have been powerful enough to exist for centuries without public knowledge, and perhaps still exist today? The Templar Cross on the top of the seal of Zion is missing the flare on the right bottom, making it look even more like a T. And if it had not broken off, then it looks very similar to the Tanit glyphs that I profiled in my Shugburl inscription decoding video. The stele on the right is interesting because Tanit is underneath the Alpha and Omega and Chi Rho symbols that have repeatedly appeared in my translations, and again reinforces that patterns are emerging in my translations that can't be ignored. I have one more idea I'd like to share. If the italicized V or Y is indicating the Hebrew letter Vav for the binding of heaven and earth, the one word that is most associated to Vav is the Hebrew word rose, which always seems to be the example word for this letter. I'm going to go out on a limb because this V and Y abbreviation could mean just about anything, but we'll seed the possible idea of it meaning rose. The rose was a privileged symbol of Mary, Queen of Heaven and Earth. We see this development later during the Middle Ages, when the rose became an attribute of many holy women. However, the most common association with the rose is the Virgin Mary. Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, the Cistercian monk, compared her virginity to a white rose, and her charity to a red rose. And he considered Saint Mary Magdalene the apostle to the apostles. Bernard would preach an immediate faith with the intercession of the Virgin Mary. In the year 1128, Bernard attended the Council of Troyes, at which he traced the outlines of the rules of the Knights Templar. He lauded them in his book, Knights of the Temple, in praise of the new knighthood. This book was written because some of the first Templars were having doubts about the idea of an order of monks whom were devoted to military combat. He criticized the ordinary knights for their vanity, wanton violence, and pointlessness. In contrast, he extolled the Templars as noble, following a higher calling, fearless and holy, while linking the Templars to the sacred sites of the Crusade. Bernard's book of praise directly addressed Hugh de Payens, founder and first Templar master. In fact, Bernard was so influential with popes and kings that by 1152 AD, there were 333 Cistercian abbeys in Europe. With the rise of Mary devotion and the building of Gothic cathedrals in the 12th century, the image of the rose became even more prominent in religious life. Cathedrals built around that time include a rose window dedicated to the Virgin at the end of the transept or above the entrance. The 13th century Saint Dominic is credited with the institution of the Rosary, a series of prayers to the Virgin, and also the symbol of the rose garland worn in heaven. If you've been following along on my videos, you'll note the date of the Zion seal of 1289 AD was a time when the world orders were in flux. By 1297, the Sword Brothers had clinched an iron fist on Livonia and northern Baltic Sea, and the subsequent passive civil war put the country into a stasis for over 30 years. In May of 1297, William Wallace, Braveheart, makes his appearance out of nowhere into the Scottish War of Independence theater to become a knight and guardian of Scotland virtually overnight. It didn't take a rocket scientist to read the signs that the Templars' existence was on borrowed time with the Holy Land Crusades winding down. And if the brothers were truly clandestine Templars, this was definitely a dire concern to them. No doubt preparations were being made far in advance to exodus their brother Templars to friendlier territories. And from the historical documents, Scotland was the #1 country that welcomed the exiled Templars with open arms. Could the monks at the Abbey of Dormition in Jerusalem have assisted in this exodus? If the seal's date of 1289 is correct, then the Church of Dormition was destroyed very late 13th century. Life is the art of exploration, and as I'm learning, I'm sharing my journey with you for the discovery of hidden meanings that have been right in front of our eyes for millenniums. For life is not what it appears to be. In essence, we look but we do not see. The paradoxes of the seemingly absurd and self-contradictory, when investigated, may prove to be true, but not in the way we thought they fit into our scheme of life. My translated message, Seal of the Respected Kinship of the Living Blood of Chevaliers, sounds like an order of an ancestral blood brotherhood. The mixing of royal blood was widespread because royals of various ethnic groups struck alliances through marriages for supposed peace. Royal intermarriages were political partnerships for control, but perhaps the mixing of blood had a more widespread meaning of maintaining the status quo of a clandestine order for their continued existence. It was not fatal to those who were breaking moral covenants, but to those who got in the way of the blood covenants. The hoax of the Priory of Zion was for personal gain and entertainment, but added nothing to the party for the benefit of humankind. However, the understanding of our existence, its hidden secrets that perhaps the ancients knew, could empower and heal humans into higher spiritual existence. In my next video, I believe I'll analyze the solitaire cross symbol and the Chi-Rho Christogram, unless some other topic draws my attention. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share to keep this channel going.